As soon as I started dating about 2 to 3 months back in my late 20s, I realized that a lot of decent men, actual decent men, not just nice guy personas, who are well-liked within the family and by friends are really single. They are just waiting for their friends and family to set them up with someone for a date and are totally out of the dating apps. Mostly, every good, decent woman I know has a huge amount of baggage as they reach their 30s, having been hurt by men, and this is really unfortunate. This makes me wonder why there is so much discrepancy in the world where these two different groups can't see each other. At the end of the day, women want a person who is good-natured and loyal, while men want the same. Of course, basic physical attraction is a must. Why then, in the end, do I see so many gems of males completely checked out or indifferent in dating? I am very close to checking out, though. Of course, I'm talking about men who have decent personalities. Nobody gets attracted to a bad personality. Story 1. Hate to say it, but decent man doesn't mean attractive. People don't understand this, and a lot of dudes get let down because they didn't understand this. The sexual landscape is competitive. We grow up thinking by the grace of being good people we'll find a partner, and that's not how life operates. Story 2. A lot of people build up a really specific lifestyle they favor and love. Then they try to find another person to fit into that. However, another human with their own life and priorities is rarely willing to live a whole other niche lifestyle on someone else's schedule. Story 3. The possible reasons are: they've had bad experiences and have quit the idea of dating. They are socially awkward or too shy to date or approach women. They are working on themselves. They do not see the benefit of dating in general. They are too picky. These are the same reasons a decent woman would be single. Also, note that just because someone is decent doesn't mean they fit everyone's qualifications. You might get rejected even if you are doing very well for yourself but just not the right fit for the person you're dating. So don't give up too easily, guys, if that is the reason why. Story 4. Why, though, in the end, do I see so many men completely checked out or indifferent in dating? When I was young, I kept trying and trying but was either told I was the problem or ignored from the start because someone got the ick from something. I am pretty sure those people you talk about have faced similar or the same issues. Now that I'm older, I've realized it's evolution, baby. I've carved my niche, and physical dating is not part of that. Story 5. Mostly every good, decent woman I know has a huge amount of baggage as she reaches her 30s, having been hurt by men, and this is really unfortunate. So you understand why women in their 30s are single, but not why men are. Story 6. A lot of decent men got the message from women to go away and leave them alone, so they did. And when they found they could live a fulfilling life alone, they did not look back. Story 7. Too many bad eggs ruined it for the dudes who genuinely care about our partners and keep getting burned out due to overgeneralization. I can't tell you how many women I've chatted with project their ex's issues onto me, only for them to get back with the said ex. Story 8. Being old, what I have noticed over the years is that people worry too much about what their friends and neighbors think rather than what their gut says. Now, we have to amplify the problem with the internet and social media platforms. There are still men and women who hold themselves to high standards, who don't play games, and who look down on competitive actions going on. The people most others seek are those who hold high standards, set goals, have good work ethics, and possess a moral compass. Story 9. This is probably going to come off pretty nice guy-ish, but I think there is just a discrepancy between what people think they want and what they are actually attracted to. It's not like all the decent men weren't around when the women were younger and before they got all that baggage you're talking about, but the women chose different men. They wanted the confident, exciting guys who turned out to be unpleasant and not the boring ones, who would treat them well. It's actually a bit insulting to then wake up in your 30s and suddenly realize that there are all these decent men out there, now that you're ready to look at them. The problem is that all those men, who were perpetually single, have become jaded because all they've experienced is rejection and disinterest, so they aren't coming to sweep you off your feet. Sure, they are lonely and would often want a relationship, but they've settled into being single and self-sufficient, so the drive isn't really there. These are obviously generalizations. There are plenty of men who are both confident and nice. There are plenty of women who actually want good and decent men, but there is a nugget of truth to the whole nice guy trademark trope, even though it obviously has a tendency to be toxic and pathetic. Story 10. Don't know if I'm a decent man, but I'm single because I've got my own issues to work on, and I don't believe I could be a worthy partner as a result. Also, modern dating kind of feels like a job search, which kind of loses my interest because I don't really want to feel like I should bring out a relationship resume for someone I'm genuinely trying to form a connection with. Story 11. I love the comments here. Wish we could pin this post and show it to every boy and every girl when they enter the grown-up dating scene, just to show what kind of life lies ahead. Being single is seldom by choice. But for men, the choice is conditioned on many factors that are out of our control. All these explicit and implicit don'ts that another person has mentioned, along with very explicit and aggressive shame and ostracism for going against these norms. At least until a certain age, dating experience for men and women is extremely different. Basically, the defaults are the opposite. Women will be approached and hit on left, right, and center all the time unless there's something very obviously unappealing about them, while men will have to take initiative all the time and be rejected in most cases unless there's something very obviously appealing about them. So the baggage of women in their 30s that you are describing is a twisted twin of the baggage of men at the same stage. While women have been hurt by men those very women actually welcomed into their lives, because at that point those men had something obviously appealing about them, men have been hurt by the same women rejecting them over and over again, sometimes in quite a nasty way because those women wouldn't even consider such men for a second, and thus wouldn't hold back. So by the time you lot have been burned by all kinds of bad boys and charismatic jerks, we lot have been burned by you. And now it's basically a prodigal son's return kind of moment. Only by now, men who've been dealing with loneliness and solitude for a significant part of their lives have hopefully learned to cope, and aren't putting themselves out too much because we all remember what the dating market looked like before. And it's not like those don'ts have gone anywhere. I think the whole dating scene needs a paradigm shift. And women should start sharing the burdens and costs of reaching out to men, instead of just passively waiting and choosing among those who've approached you. I don't chase. I attract attitude is what turns women into streetlights surrounded by hungry or desperate moths. Men who've played this game before and got burned are not chasing the lights anymore. And that's how those two groups of people you described are unable to see each other. Story 12. You were like the brother I never had. You were such a great friend. You will find a woman that you deserve. If only I could find a guy like you. You will be a great husband. You get the point. Story 13. It's quite simple. Many decent men are ignored in their early 20s, and by the time they are in their late 20s, they don't care about relationships. To be a long-term partner, men are expected to build a career and achieve financial stability, maintain their health and appearance, develop a robust social network, practice a range of communication and emotional regulation skills, and have time to fully participate in their romantic relationship. This is a tough standard to meet, and it takes a lot of time to become that kind of man. Unfortunately, women are impatient when it comes to relationships. Women want to start a long-term relationship with a man who has already sculpted himself. Women aren't interested in waiting for a guy who needs more time to develop himself. By the time a young man finishes walking through fire and forging himself into the type of man that is attractive as a long-term partner, he's likely become jaded and disenchanted with romance. Story 14. Society simply neglected them. Not just men. You usually see that decent people are not in sync with society like others, but that doesn't mean they are isolated. Most meet each other, and some unlucky ones get broken by those who don't understand them. Story 15. Nobody wants to consider anyone below the cream of the crop when they think they have an actual chance at the best of the best. And that's what dating apps do to people. When the top options are presented, you aren't going to consider 5s, SIXS, 7s, or even some 8s. You'll pretty much exclusively target the top choices and maybe settle for the 9s or really good 8s. So what you end up with is everyone in that decent category getting passed by. Though it happens to both, it's more common for guys since many men out there will quite literally say yes to every girl on there without any standards. Story 16. Women want to be wanted, that is, they want to be pursued but under their terms. Which is fair enough, I guess. People want to feel comfortable, feel like the person who wants them is confident. Nobody wants to feel settled for. As a man, I wouldn't want to only be good enough either. I would want them to want me in their life too. And if I can be considered a decent man, then I'll say this too. I don't have the energy or the time now. I don't care anymore because I have sports, volunteering, video games, and other activities that are consistently rewarding. I don't want to get cheated on yet again or get abandoned because of one small bumpy patch yet again. I don't want to deal with failure to communicate, with a lack of effort, or with being the attempt to fill a void in someone's life again. I'd rather be happy and content, and I already have that as a single person. If you can show me a woman that communicates, shares my values, and actually has an interest in getting to know me on some level, maybe I'll change my mind back. Everyone, including me, is just too focused on themselves these days, I think. Not good or bad per se, but that's how it is. Story 17. Because those around us keep claiming we are amazing catches, but then are not interested themselves. Or, well, nobody at all actually shows interest. So we end up staying single because nobody actually wants us on an intimate or romantic level. Story 18. It's not worth it. It doesn't matter how good I am, how much I provide, or how well I treat her. Feeling safe isn't exciting. We're not appreciated and deserve to be more than just a resource. It's better for us to be single. We can create our own peace and happiness. Story 19. My late wife was perfect, smart, communicative, and reflective, and she told me when I wasn't using the best tact. Now I am in the dating pool again. I have met a desperate woman who wanted children immediately. One lady who was overly attached to my son as a replacement for her own. Another woman didn't communicate at all until she fainted from hunger and then claimed that I wasn't attentive to her needs. Lastly, there was one who charged me for the time we spent together because it meant she couldn't pursue her business, claiming a loss of income. Story 20. I considered myself one of these decent men, so it's a constant battle of never knowing what's too much or too little when it comes to approaching women. Too much? We're being called a creep because we can't take a hint. Then we don't want to approach women at all and would rather wait for them to give us clear signals they're interested. But then we're trying too little and get put in the category of men need to be men again and learn how to chase women. Men need to have more masculine energy. And dating in my 30s now, it's pretty much guaranteed the woman has kids already, and there's a possibility she might not want any more. I personally don't have kids, so I'd want a partner who doesn't have kids or is open to having at least one more if things work out. I'd hate to say it, but there's also a lot of immature women, surprisingly. Mainly emotional immaturity. I've been alone for years, so I've done the work of educating myself emotionally. You realize not a lot of people are on that level due to back-to-back relationship hopping, then having kids, etc. No time for them to truly be alone and put in that essential work. Also, there are women who carry a very entitled mentality from toxic, I know my worth culture. Very, very into what social media is feeding them. Just showing up to a date or giving men your presence isn't putting in effort. Be considerate and meet men halfway when they're putting in effort to date you and get to know you. So much unnecessary time wasted acting uninterested, waiting for men to do all the work. Do your part. Men deserve to be treated nicely too, especially the nice ones you all claim to want as a partner. And then we bring in social media, where there's instant validation and dopamine hits from loads of attention from men with a single selfie, letting women constantly know they can post one single selfie and get their roster up if things don't work out. Sadly, there's an alarming number of women who still carry this mentality. Social media has gotten too into their heads and has prevented them from maturing mentally too, focusing on fake validation instead of seeing what's really important in life. Don't get me wrong, the same goes for men. Social media has just ruined dating as a whole on both sides. It's all so exhausting. At 31 years old, I'm simply giving up on the idea and have been learning to enjoy my own company, hoping the more I work on myself, the better chance I can attract someone on the same higher frequency I'm operating at. Story 21. Remember that episode of Planet Earth where there was the quiet bird, a decent bird, kept to himself, a very clean bird, and got all the female birds? Yeah, me neither. If you don't ask, you don't get. It has nothing to do with being a decent person or not. Story 22. I like to think I am decent. In that I try my best to be very polite and courteous, never get aggressive or angry, etc. But my body just immediately disqualifies me from appearing sexual in any way. I'm just not an option. Edit. I'm very overweight. That's why my body disqualifies me. Story 23. Societal pressures to start a family were larger back then. I'm going to say that women's emancipation and their ability to support themselves has changed the dating world a lot, so has birth control. The changing context is leading them to be less focused on husband qualities and more on fling qualities in men. Story 24. I think relationship goals are different between men and women in their teens and 20s. In my experience, women want someone who does things for them, makes them feel appreciated, listens to them after a hard day, comforts them, and acts as a verbal sponge. Men want a best friend with benefits. Someone with whom they can have fun and enjoy life together, go biking together, tell corny jokes, get drunk, and rely on when needed. These things are not entirely exclusive from each other, but they're also not the same. Relationships break when one or both is failing to meet the needs of the other. In my experience, women are the better negotiators in a relationship, so they get more of their boxes ticked on the needs list. This eventually causes the man to realize that being in this relationship is not what he hoped for, and either tunes out or leaves. Obviously, I write this from a male perspective and normal relationships.